Welcome to the tutorial series on Android with Kotlin. This is the second tutorial on the series. In this tutorial, we are going to learn about how to do the navigation in Android applications. As a summary, we will use a button, and when you click the button, we will be able to pass some data from one activity to another. So at the end, we will be talking about backward navigation as well. So I'm going to create a new project in Android Studio. Select empty activity, click next. So I'm going to name this as simple navigation. Then click finish. Now the project has been successfully loaded. So we are going to create the user interface for this tutorial. So I will remove the existing text view. And for this example, I'm going to take the input from a edit text view, and we will be using a button to get the user interaction. So from the text section of this palette, I'm going to select the plain text from here and I will add it to the screen. Then we'll select a button and add that to the screen as well. So I will be centering these components. I can simply select the two components by pressing the shift key on the keyboard and click this one. And I can right click this component and go to center and select horizontally. Then for the top constraint, I will add the default constraint by clicking this plus icon here. Then for the button also, I will do the same. Now our UI is complete for the first activity. Then in order to access these components in my main activity Kotlin file, I will be giving IDs for each component. So since we are editing a edit text view, we will be naming it as edt data. Then click refactor. So this button also will give a name btn submit. So I'm going to remove the existing text from this text view. So that can be removed from the text attribute section. I will remove the existing text. Then we'll edit the button text here. So we will rename it to submit. So here from the attribute section, again I'm coming back to the text attribute. From here, clicking this pick a resource button. And when the window open, I will click the plus button here and click the string value. So we'll name it as btn submit. So now the UI is done. The edit text views ID is okay. btn submit button ID is also okay. Now we are going to create a new activity to receive the data from this activity to that activity. So you can simply right click this folder containing all the classes, go to new, select activity and select empty activity from here. So I'm going to rename it as second activity, then click finish. So this message is actually displaying, the reason is we have edited the strings XML file. You don't have to worry about that. We will click the load file system changes, and here we have the class for second activity and UI for that particular activity, and the UI for the second activity. So in order to display the data, I will add a text view to the screen. So since we don't have any other elements on the screen, I will center this in the both directions. So I can simply right click it, go to center and click horizontally, and right click the component again, go to center and select vertically. So we can see that the existing text size is smaller. So what I will do is I will simply increase the text size by going into the attribute section, search it from here and increase the text size to 24 sp. Right now the screen is visible, component is clearly visible on the screen. So we are going to give a text ID which can be accessed by the code. So we'll name it as TV output. Now for this tutorial, all the UI components are done. Now what left is we have to collect the data from this input field, and when you click the button, we will be navigating into the second activity with that user entered value. So we are going into the main activity.kotlin file. This is similar to the previous tutorial. I am going to create two parameters, two variables to hold the objects of our UI components. So we'll name it as edt data. Second one will be btn submit. Now I will be initializing these components in the onCreate method. edt data will be initialized, find view by id, r.id.edt data, then btn submit will be find view by id, r.id.btn submit. Then I am going to set a on-click listener to the btn submit button. I can click the set on-click listener. Right. Now we are going to handle our user's input. So the idea is to get the data from the input field and pass it to the next activity. For the first one, I will create a simple variable named data and will take the input value from the edt data. And we will have to convert it to a string. Right. Now the data variable is containing the string value of the edt data input field. Now here this data variable will be updated at the onClick event. So whenever the user enter the data, that latest data will be updated with this variable. Now I am going to create an object from the intent class in order to start the new activity. So we'll name it as intent. And we have to pass two parameters into the intent class, which is the current location and the next location that we are going to. So this is how you create that intent object. So the first parameter is the current location. Second parameter is the activity or service or any other component that you are going to load after the button click. So in this case, we are opening the second activity. Now, in order to pass data from this activity to the next one, we need to call the putextra method in the intent object. So there you have to pass the value using key value pair. So the key will be data and I will add the variable value of the data as well. So this method is completed. Now what we have to do is call the start activity method. Then it will ask for a parameter of intent. So we will pass the created intent object into the start activity method. Now the main activity code is completed. So now we are going to implement the code in the second activity. So in the second activity, what you have to do is, first you have to collect the data from the main activity that you have passed to the intent. So you can simply do that by creating a variable here. So we will name it as data. And you can simply call the intent object and call the getExtra method. So here you can specifically say get string extra. So in this method, it will look for a string value. So we can give the ID as data. So it will be loaded with our current value. Then the next step is to create the object of the UI element that we have. So I will create a private variable here. It will be TV output. So I am naming it as the same as the ID that we have given there. So it's actually an object of text view. So we haven't initialized it yet. The meaning of this line is you are creating a private variable that will be initialized later. So here we are going to initialize it. Then we can simply set the text of this TV output object to the data that we have taken from the previous activity. So this error is actually coming from this second activity because it's not still saved. So I'm going to come back to the second activity and press Ctrl S and come back to the second activity class. You can see that error has gone away. So now this is a good time to start the application and see whether what we have tried is working properly. So this is my running device. So I have connected my mobile phone to my PC. So I'm running the application. So now you can see our application loaded successfully. So I will be adding some data here. Let's add test and click submit. So you can see the test text that we have passed is added without any issue. Now in order to go back to the previous activity, we can simply click the back button and you can see the exact location that we have left our application is still there. So I can simply add another value, let's say new value, and when you click the submit button, that new value will be updated. So here we don't have any component to navigate back to the main activity. So if you want to go back, the only way that you can do is clicking the back button from the phone. So in Android, we have a simple method of eliminating that. We can simply go back by enabling backward navigation. Now I will show you how to enable the backward navigation in this application. So you can simply go into the manifest file, open the Android manifest file from this location, and here you can see there's a tag for this particular activity, second activity. So what we have to do is set the parent of this activity to the main activity. So let me show you what will happen. So I am going to add a new line here. We'll type parent, and here you can see Android parent activity name. So that is the tag that we are looking at. Then here I can simply select the main activity as the parent activity. Now look at what will happen. So I am refreshing the application. So I can add data here. So let's add test, and when you click submit, you can see the data has been passed correctly, and also there's a back arrow button appearing on the screen. So with this you can simply go back to the previous activity and it's a new instance. So from that we have implemented our backward navigation. Now you might be wondering what will happen if I click the submit button without adding any value. So you can see without any issue we are going into the new activity. So by default from this code what we have developed, you can see we are not taking any value directly from the text view. So we are actually taking the text value of the view in this component, this edit text view. So when you take the text value, if it is empty, it's going to be automatically empty string. So there will be no errors. So usually when you code in Kotlin, if there is an error, you can easily find that at the compilation level. So you don't have to run the application to find out errors. That's about the tutorial. If you have any questions or feedback, please leave them in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for the more tutorials and updates on the Android development. Thank you for watching.